Part 1, The Accidental Touch. The routine that changed everything. Jackson Reed had always believed that the most dangerous part of being a maintenance engineer on Stellar Station Alpha was the risk of electrocution. After 6 years of keeping the massive space station systems running, he had developed an almost supernatural awareness of failing circuits and faltering generators. What he hadn't counted on was the hazards of Etherian diplomatic protocol. The day everything changed started with a simple work order: repair the environmental controls in the diplomatic wing's conference room before the afternoon's negotiations. Jackson whistled as he made his way through the pristine corridors, his tool belt clicking against his standard-issue gray jumpsuit. The station's artificial gravity felt slightly off, another item on his endless to-do list. Better get this done before the bigwigs arrive, he muttered, accessing the maintenance panel behind an ornate wall hanging. An unexpected encounter. The environmental system's diagnostic display showed multiple cascade failures. Jackson sighed and got to work, elbow deep in circuitry. He was so focused on the delicate repair that he didn't notice the door whispering open or the soft footsteps approaching, accompanied by the subtle chime of ceremonial jewelry. "The atmosphere feels unstable," a melodious voice observed. "I trust this is being addressed?" "Yes, Ambassador," Jackson replied automatically, not looking up from his work. "Just need to bypass this faulty." His hand slipped on a loose connection, causing him to stumble backward. As he tried to regain his balance, his shoulder brushed against someone standing behind him. The touch lasted less than a second. Jackson spun around, apology ready on his lips, and froze. Before him stood Ambassador Nera Voss of the Etherian Empire, her crystalline skin shifting through shades of deep blue to startled violet. Her luminescent eyes widened in shock. Two guards materialized seemingly from nowhere, their weapons trained on Jackson's chest. A life-altering choice. The ambassador raised one elegant hand, and everyone in the room went still. "Do you know what you have done?" she asked, her voice eerily calm. Jackson swallowed hard. "I apologize for the contact, Ambassador. It was completely accidental." "Accident or intent matters not under Etherian law," she said. "Physical contact with an unmarried member of the Imperial bloodline can only be interpreted in one of two ways: an act of aggression, punishable by death." She paused, her crystalline features unreadable. "Or?" Jackson prompted, trying to keep his voice steady. "Or a formal declaration of intent to mate." Jackson blinked. Surely, he had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "Our laws are absolute," Ambassador Voss continued. "You must choose, face execution for assault or submit yourself as a potential mate under Imperial law." The guards' weapons hummed ominously. Jackson's mind raced through his options. Death was obviously out, but becoming ceremonially engaged to an alien ambassador because of a workplace accident seemed equally impossible. A humble engineer's dilemma. How, exactly would this mate selection process work? He asked carefully. Something flickered in the ambassador's luminescent eyes, surprise, perhaps, or curiosity. "You would undergo the traditional trials. If you fail, the result is the same as choosing execution. If you succeed..." She lifted her chin. "We would be bound together under Imperial law." Jackson ran a hand through his dark hair, buying time to think. His mother had always told him his habit of fixing things would get him into trouble someday. She probably hadn't imagined this scenario. "Before I choose," he said carefully, "may I ask one question?" Ambassador Voss inclined her head slightly. Part 2, The Trial of Adaptation. A new dawn on Stellar Station Alpha. Jackson Reed stood outside Ambassador Nera Voss's quarters at precisely 2000 hours, having traded his work-stained jumpsuit for his best civilian clothes, a dark blue shirt and black pants that he usually reserved for station formal events. He'd spent the last few hours researching Etherian customs, though most information was classified or written in their complex crystalline script. The door slid open silently, revealing a vast circular room with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the nearby nebula. Ambassador Voss stood by the windows, her crystalline form refracting the cosmic light into subtle patterns across the floor. "You're punctual," she observed, turning to face him. "And you cleaned up." "I figured showing up covered in coolant might not make the best impression," Jackson replied, staying near the door, unsure of protocol. "Though, honestly, Ambassador, I'm not sure what would." "Nara," she corrected, her skin shifting to a lighter blue. "If you're to be my potential mate, you should use my given name. Unless you prefer to maintain formal titles, before your execution." Jackson couldn't tell if she was joking. "Nara, then." "I'm Jackson." "Yes, I reviewed your file," she said, gesturing to a sitting area. "Please, be seated. We have much to discuss." The trials begin. The furniture looked like it was carved from living crystal but proved surprisingly comfortable. Nara settled across from him, her movements graceful and measured. "The trials," she began, "are designed to test three essential qualities: adaptability, understanding, and devotion. They date back to the founding of our empire. If you fail any of them, then you die." She stated it matter-of-factly. "However," she continued, her skin darkening slightly, "there is something you should know. No non-Etherian has ever passed them." "Wonderful," Jackson muttered, leaning back. "Any other encouraging news?" "Several members of the Imperial Council are already protesting your participation," Nara said. "They believe allowing a human maintenance worker to attempt the trials degrades their sanctity." "Because fixing things is beneath them?" Jackson asked, his tone sharper than intended. Nara's eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand. In our culture, those who maintain and repair are highly respected. However..." She paused, her skin flickering with a pattern Jackson couldn't decipher. "Your species is considered young, impulsive. Some would say, primitive. Says the species that executes people for accidental touching." Jackson shot back before he could stop himself. Nara's skin flashed a dangerous deep purple, and Jackson braced for guards to burst in. Instead, she did something unexpected, she laughed. "You speak your mind freely," she said, her tone softening. "That is refreshing. My people tend toward excessive ceremony." "I noticed," Jackson said, gesturing to the room's elaborate decor. "Though I have to admit, your technology is beautiful. The way you've integrated crystalline matrices into basic systems is incredible. I've been studying the designs since I started working here." Part 3, Cultural Convergence. "Teach me about your stars," Luminara requested, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the observation deck's walls. Commander Rhys Harrison paused from his study of the technical diagrams she had provided as part of his preparation. After passing the first two trials, engineering aptitude and diplomatic protocol, he'd earned the right to spend time learning about celestial culture directly from his potential future mate. "Our stars?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Surely your people have far more advanced astronomical knowledge than we do." Luminara's surface rippled with what he was learning to recognize as amusement. "I don't want scientific data, Commander. I want to know your stories. How does humanity see the cosmos?" Rhys moved to the window, gesturing to the star field. "Well, take those three bright stars in a row there. We call that Orion's belt, part of a larger constellation. Ancient humans saw it as a mighty hunter in the sky. And what was this hunter's story?" Her crystalline form shifted closer, genuinely interested. "He was said to be the greatest hunter ever known, but his pride led him to boast he could kill any creature. The gods, depending on which version you believe, either punished or honored him by placing him among the stars." Rhys turned to find Luminara studying him intently. "Your people see stories of pride and consequence in random stellar arrangements," she observed. "Fascinating. We see mathematical harmonies, cosmic resonances. And which view is correct? Reese asked, though he was beginning to suspect he knew her answer. Both. Neither. The universe contains infinite perspectives. She moved to a control panel, her crystalline fingers dancing across the interface. The observation deck's lights dimmed, and suddenly they were surrounded by a three-dimensional star map far more detailed than anything human technology could produce. This is how my people see space, she explained. Each star produces unique vibrations, creating a vast cosmic symphony. Watch. She touched another control, and Reese heard/felt something indescribable, like music, but felt in his bones rather than heard with his ears. That's incredible, he breathed. Is this how you navigate? Among other things. But lately, I've been wondering if we've become too focused on the mathematical precision of it all. We've forgotten how to simply look up and wonder. Reese studied her, noting how her crystalline surface seemed less rigidly structured than when they'd first met. You're different from what I expected, he admitted. As are you, Commander. When you touched our ship, my advisors were certain you were either incredibly arrogant or hopelessly ignorant. Yet you've shown neither quality. Just a pragmatic engineer doing his job, he shrugged. Though I'm still not sure how that qualifies me as a potential mate for a celestial diplomat. Luminara's form shimmered with what might have been uncertainty. Perhaps that's exactly why. Our people have become rigid. We see patterns and protocols everywhere, forgetting that sometimes the most elegant solutions arise from necessity rather than planning. She gestured to the star map. Take this display. It's beautiful, precise, perfect, and utterly predictable. But your stories about hunters and heroes in the stars? They remind us that there are different ways to find meaning in the cosmos. Part 4, The Trial of Unity. The chamber where Reese's final trial would take place looked more like a meditation room than a testing facility. Crystalline formations floated in zero gravity at its center, their surfaces reflecting and refracting light in complex patterns. The trial of unity, Luna announced formally, her crystalline form radiating an intensity he hadn't seen before, is not about proving worthiness. It is about possibility. The assembled celestial dignitaries murmured among themselves. Reese noticed several displaying color patterns he'd learned indicated disapproval. What exactly am I supposed to do? He asked, studying the floating crystals. You must merge your consciousness with mine through the crystal matrix, Luna explained. Several gasps echoed through the chamber. Complete unity of mind and purpose, it is how all celestial bonds are formed. Reese felt his heart rate increase. I'm human. Is that even possible? Unknown, Luna admitted. No non-celestial has ever attempted it. The risk of mental damage is significant. And if I refuse? Then the previous trials mean nothing. The law requires complete unity. A tall celestial elder stepped forward, his crystalline form dark with concern. Envoy Luminara, this is unprecedented. A human mind cannot possibly withstand the crystal matrix. To attempt this would be dangerous for both parties. Yet our laws demand it, Luna countered. Unless you suggest we execute him instead? The elder's form rippled with frustration. The law never anticipated this situation. Perhaps that's exactly why we must proceed, Luna said. She turned to Reese. The choice remains yours, Commander. Reese studied the floating crystals, his engineer's mind analyzing the problem. These crystals, they're similar to your ship's structure? Yes. They serve as conduits for consciousness. And they respond to electrical patterns? Neural impulses? Luna's form brightened slightly. You're thinking like an engineer again. Always. He stepped closer to the crystal formation. Your people's technology is based on harmonics and resonance. Maybe complete unity isn't necessary, just enough compatibility to establish a connection. The elder's form darkened further. You cannot approach this like a technical problem. Why not? Reese challenged. Your own histories say these protocols were developed to facilitate understanding between different celestial factions. They were solutions to problems. Why can't they evolve to solve new ones? Luna moved to stand beside him. He's right. Our traditions began as innovations. We've forgotten that. Reese turned to her. You said true unity doesn't require either party to lose themselves. Maybe that's the real test, finding harmony without sacrifice. Her form rippled with what he now recognized as hope. Are you ready to try? He nodded, and Luna guided him to the center of the crystal formation. Clear your mind, she instructed. Don't fight what comes next. The crystals began to pulse with inner light, creating patterns that seemed to bypass his eyes and write themselves directly into his brain. He felt Luna's presence, not trying to overwhelm his consciousness but seeking resonance points, places where their minds could connect without merging. Images and sensations flooded through him, Luna's childhood among the crystal spires of her homeworld, her fascination with other species, her secret hope that someone would challenge celestial traditions. He shared his own memories, the wonder of his first spacewalk, the satisfaction of solving impossible engineering problems, his belief that differences could become strengths.